Hello, and welcome to our 23rd D&D 3.5 Prestige class review. Today, we're going to be looking at the Maester Prestige class from the Complete Adventure sourcebook. I'll be going through the Prestige class's requirements, class features, and rating it on its concept and execution. I'll also be giving some suggestions for how I would improve it, as well as some potential builds that could incorporate it. Maesters are gnomes who are master craftsmen of magical items. They combine technical and magical expertise to create incredible marvels. In fact, the illustration for the Prestige class shows a gnome wizard, presumably creating an apparatus of qualish. To become a Maester, you have to be a gnome. You need to have 8 ranks in any craft skill, and 4 ranks in use magic device, and for feats you need any 2 item creation feats. And for spells you need to be a 5th level arcane caster. This means that any wizard that takes a item creation feat for their 5th level feat, probably craft wondrous item or the like, is going to automatically qualify for this prestige class so long as they meet the skill requirements. While being a gnome is quite a restrictive requirement, seeing as you can only be a gnome if you want to take this prestige class, I would still rate its requirements only mildly restrictive, simply because of the fact that it is so easy for those gnomish wizards to get into. As a Maester, you get a d4 hit die, half your level as base attack bonus, and a goodwill save. So pretty much in line with what you've already got as a wizard, presumably. You get 4 plus intelligence modifier skill points, which is a little bit of an upgrade. You don't get all of the knowledge skills the same way that a wizard does. You only get arcana and architecture and engineering. However, you do get spellcraft, concentration, and you do get to add use magic device and disable device to your list of class skills, which is going to be interesting, and that is something to consider spending your 2 extra skill points per level on. As for class features, you do get an improvement to your spellcasting level at every level of this prestige class except for first. This right away is going to put a little bit of a damper on things, as it always does, because missing out on your spellcasting progression is, well, in the case of a wizard, it's going to effectively in some ways turn you into a sorcerer, in terms of when you get access to that new level of spells. That said, crafting magical items is extremely versatile, and at level 1 you also get a bonus item creation feat, which you must meet the prerequisites for. As a gnome, this will allow you access to a second type of magical item, so rather than simply craft wondrous item or brew potion, you could do craft magical arms and armor, or craft wand or something like that. In addition, you also get the quick crafting feature. This allows you to craft magical items in half the normal time required in the item's base price. So rather than 1,000 gold pieces of magical item per day, you can now craft 2,000 gold pieces of magical item per day. However, the minimum is still 1 day to craft a magical item. This is a very nice feature, as a lot of campaigns are somewhat restrictive on downtime that it takes to craft magical items, so being able to do it twice as fast is going to be really helpful. The introductory section also mentions that this is an excellent prestige class for an NPC patron for the party, which makes sense because it is nice to be able to hand over some commissions or some magical items to be upgraded to an NPC Maester and have it done in half the time. That said, it's really difficult to say that this is going to be worth giving up a level of spellcasting. While the bonus feat is nice and gives you a lot of added versatility, you're really going to want to make a lot of use of that second item crafting feat, or else you're not going to get very much benefit from the fact that you gave up an entire level of spellcasting. Level 2 simply gives you another level of spellcasting, as does level 4. At level 3 you gain the identification feature. This lets you determine the magical properties of a magical item simply by handling it for 1 minute and then making a spellcraft check of DC 10 plus the item's caster level. You can't take 10 or 20 on this check, you can't retry it, but it otherwise works as the identify spell, so if you succeed, you know all of its properties, insofar as the identify spell would be able to tell you. This is a really nice feature, but unfortunately it is replaced easily by an Artificer's Monocle, a magic item that only costs 1,500 gold pieces, and that you could craft in less than a day with just 1 level in this prestige class. It also doesn't require a successful skill check in order to do the identification. That said, if for some reason you can't have access to that magical item for whatever reason, or somehow with restrictive house rules you're not able to craft it, then this is still a useful feature, but for the most part, you should simply be grabbing an Artificer's Monocle and using that instead. At level 5, you get another bonus feat, again, a item creation feat. This is going to be a nice way to cap off this prestige class, although at level 10 of Wizard you would have been getting a bonus feat anyway, so this level is a little bit pointless. Overall, this is an interesting and flavorful idea for prestige class that is held back by a lack of features, and the features it does have are easily replaced by cheap magic items. Getting an extra item creation feat at level 6 is nice, but you have to weigh whether that is worth giving up a level of spellcasting. Personally, I couldn't recommend more than one level in this prestige class for anybody, even an NPC ally, that you're giving this to let the party get their magic items a little bit faster. And that's really what this prestige class seems to be geared to. Rather than to player characters, it seems to be meant for NPC allies. And to its credit, it does mention this in the introductory text. That said, this still can be nice for a one-level dip for a character who really wants to focus on item creation. You are going to be a level behind, but it's possible you're going to be falling behind anyway if you're crafting a lot of magical items for your party. Being an item creation wizard sometimes means you have to live vicariously a little bit through your allies. That said, if you do create a wand for yourself, that is going to be 50 spell slots that you have for use, so you're not going to be wanting for spells, you're simply going to be delayed in accessing the most powerful ones. And at worst, entering this as a wizard, you're just going to be having the spell progression of a sorcerer, which the game is for the most part still balanced around. Overall, I would give this prestige class 4 stars for concept and 1 star for execution, although 3 stars as an NPC ally. While this is an interesting idea, it's not particularly unique, but it does help establish the role of gnomes in your world if you choose to include it. It simply doesn't measure up when it comes to the features, save for the first level, which is a very simple trade-off between a slower spellcasting progression for a little bit faster magic item crafting and an extra feat to help craft you new types of items. Improving this prestige class would simply be a matter of including better features, or at the very least giving it a full spellcasting progression. The third level feature is going to be obsolete for anybody who has the magic item compendium. It's only saved by the fact that the Artificer's Loop is a slightly more obscure magic item and a little bit less well known, but for anybody playing this prestige class, just know that there are better options. Improving this prestige class is very difficult because magic item creation is already one of the wizard's strongest options. Some way to mitigate the XP cost might be tempting to add, but it is a very important balancing factor. While a lot of players complain about paying XP for creating magical items, it's important to keep in mind that these XP costs are balanced with the level progression expectations of the game, and you're only going to be fighting 267 encounters between levels 1 and 20. That seems like a lot, but if each battle only lasts 3 rounds, you're only going to need to have about 12 or so wands for the entire campaign, and that's assuming that you use exclusively wands. For that sort of price, being a level behind your party can be definitely a worthy trade-off. And keep in mind that as a lower level character in the party, you are going to be getting a little bit more XP, so in a way, the problem solves itself. One potential feature for this prestige class would be an ability that mitigates the extra cost of combining 2 magical items into one. There are a lot of great magic items throughout the D&D 3.5 supplements that simply don't see any use because they are often passed up in favor of the all-important Cloaks of Resistance, Rings of Protection, Bracers of Armor, and other much more powerful utility items. So being able to combine 2 magic items while paying less of a premium for doing so, while being an extremely powerful capability, will at least allow you to experience more of the magic items that 3.5 has to offer, rather than simply going with the default most powerful and, in many cases, required and necessary magical items that you often are stuck going with. Also, allowing you to make certain magic items without necessarily knowing the requisite spells for creating them could also be a very powerful feature that would give this class a lot more utility, and would essentially in the end just be saving you gold on getting a scroll to learn it. One final amusing note, it would seem that the example character for this prestige class doesn't care much for optimization, as it is a gnome wizard 5 maester 2, getting essentially no benefit for taking that second level of maester. Even taking a 6th level of wizard would at least improve the saving throws in a more meaningful way, and would have also given that +1 caster level that he would need anyway. Again, just an amusing detail, and one not to read too much into, seeing as the example NPCs for this prestige class are rarely optimized, probably on purpose. So, that's going to be it for this prestige class review. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, and so on. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time here on 3.5 Archive.